Love is not always loud. Sometimes it is silent waiting. Sometimes it is letting go. Sometimes it is becoming the villain in someone's story just so they can survive. They didn't fall in love the dramatic way movies show. There were no thunderbolts, no sudden confessions, no instant realization. Their love grew quietly, like roots under the soil, like sunlight slowly warming cold earth, like a heartbeat you don't hear until it stops. The cafe sat at the edge of the river, half hidden behind old cherry trees that bloomed shamelessly every spring, scattering pink petals like confessions no one dared to make aloud. It was quiet at this hour, too early for couples, too late for morning walkers, just the way Taehyung liked it. Jungkook used to say the place felt like them, unpretentious, warm, constant. Taehyung sat by the window, fingers curled around a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. He wasn't drinking it. He rarely did when he was nervous. Across from him, Jungkook watched every small movement, the way Taehyung's thumb traced the rim of the cup, the way his eyes kept drifting toward the river. As if he were, Jungkook leaned back, resting his head against the tree. "Do you ever think about leaving?" he asked suddenly. Taehyung looked at him. "Leaving what?" "Here, this place, this city, this life." "Arkol." Taehyung studied his face for a moment. Then quietly, "Do you want to leave?" Jungkook didn't answer immediately. "Yes," he finally said, "but I don't want to lose anything." Taehyung didn't know why his chest tightened. The scholarship email came at 2:13 a.m. Jungkook stared at the screen. "Congratulations. You have been selected for the International Higher Studies program. Abroad. 2 years. Full scholarship. Top university. Life-changing opportunity." His hands shook. He should have been happy. But the first name in his mind wasn't his father, wasn't his mother, wasn't even his future. It was Taehyung. Taehyung listened in silence. The words hung in the air between them. "Say something," Jungkook finally murmured, smiling softly. "You've been quiet for 10 minutes." Taehyung laughed, but it came out thin. "I'm thinking." "That's dangerous." Taehyung looked up then, really looked at him, and the smile faded. Jungkook was leaving. 2 years? Taehyung whispered. "Yes." "When?" "In 2 months." Taehyung smiled, but his eyes didn't. "That's amazing," he said softly. 2 years felt short when people said it out loud. 2 years sounded like a small pause, like a deep breath taken before continuing the same sentence. But when Jungkook stood at the airport gate with his suitcase digging into his palm and Taeyong's eyes memorizing his face like it might be taken away, 2 years already felt like a lifetime. Taeyong hated airports. He hated the way time behaved here, rushing for everyone else and dragging only for him. He hated the way people said goodbye like it was nothing, like love could be folded neatly into a carry on bag. Jungkook stood in front of him, tall, nervous, smiling too much. "I'll come back," Jungkook said for the third time, voice steady but eyes betraying him. "I promise." Taeyong nodded. He always nodded when emotions grew too big for his mouth. "I know." Jungkook hesitated. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled something out small, simple, silver. A ring. Taehyung's breath hitched. "Before I go," Jungkook said quietly, suddenly unsure of the words he'd practiced for weeks, "I want to ask you something." The noise around them faded. No announcements, no footsteps, just Jungkook's shaking hands and Taehyung's widening eyes. "Taehyung, will you?" Taehyung stepped back. Just one step, but it felt like a wall. Jungkook froze. "I love you," Taeyong said quickly, afraid Jungkook might misunderstand. His voice trembled anyway. "I love you more than I know how to say, but I can't accept it now." Jungkook's smile faltered. "Why?" "Because I don't want this to be a promise made out of fear," Taeyong replied softly. "Or distance, or loneliness." He reached out, gently closing Jungkook's fingers around the ring. Come back, Taehyung said. Finish your studies. Become everything you want to be. And when you return, if you still choose me, I'll say yes. Without doubt. Without fear. Jungkook stared at him like the world had tilted. And you? He asked. Will you wait? Taehyung didn't answer immediately. Waiting was terrifying. Waiting meant uncertainty. Waiting meant nights where love hurt instead of healed. But loving Jungkook had always required courage. I will, Taehyung said finally. I'll wait. Jungkook pulled him into a tight embrace, the kind that said don't forget me, the kind that said I'm already hurting. I'll come back for you, Jungkook whispered into his hair, no matter what. Taehyung closed his eyes and held on. Video calls, voice notes, photos. Did you eat? Did you sleep? I miss you. I love you. But time is cruel. Distance is crueler. Loneliness grows. Silence stretches. Schedules change. Calls become shorter. Messages become fewer. Love becomes waiting. Taehyung started losing sleep. Jungkook started losing time. Both were losing each other slowly. 2 years, 730 days, 17,520 hours. That's how long Jungkook had waited to come back. The plane touched down. The city lights spread below him like stars on earth. But the only thing Jungkook wanted to see was Taeyang. He called him the moment his phone reconnected to the local network. No answer. He smiled anyway. Taeyong was probably busy. He texted instead. I'm back. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then his phone buzzed. Let's meet. Relief washed through Jungkook so hard it made him dizzy. Our place? He typed. There was a pause. Yes. The cafe by the river looked exactly the same. The cherry trees stood bare now, branches stark against the grey sky, but Jungkook barely noticed. His eyes scanned the familiar space, heart pounding, mind replaying the moment he would finally see Taeyang again. He chose the table by the window. Their table. Minutes passed. 10. 15. Jungkook checked the time, fingers tapping anxiously against his knee. He's late, he thought, a smile tugging at his lips. He was always bad with time. He stood there with a small box in his pocket, heart pounding like it hadn't learned patience in 2 years of absence. The bell above the cafe door rang. Jungkook looked up, expectation flaring, and froze. The man walking toward him was not Taehyung. He was tall, pale, dressed neatly in a dark coat. His expression was calm, unreadable, eyes sharp but tired, like someone who had carried too much for too long. The stranger stopped in front of Jungkook's table. John Jungkook? He asked. Jungkook stood. Yes, you are. Min Yoongi. Jungkook waited. Yoongi inhaled slowly. I'm Kim Taehyung's fiance. The world tilted. For a moment, Jungkook thought he'd misheard. What? Yoongi didn't repeat himself. He simply met Jungkook's gaze, steady and unflinching. That's not funny, Jungkook said, a sharp laugh breaking out of him. Where is Taehyung? Yoongi's jaw tightened slightly. He asked me to come. That doesn't answer my question. Yoongi hesitated. He didn't want to see you. The words struck harder than any blow. Jungkook's chest burned. You're lying. I'm not. Jungkook shook his head, anger rising fast and hot. I don't know what game you're playing, but this is crossing a line. He pulled out his phone, fingers moving furiously as he called Taehyung. Once, twice. Finally, the call connected. Taehyung, Jungkook said breathlessly. What the hell is going on? Why is there some guy here claiming to be your Jungkook? Taehyung interrupted quietly. That voice, familiar, distant. He's telling the truth. The cafe seemed to shrink around him. Say that again. I'm engaged. Taehyung said. His voice didn't waver, and somehow that hurt more. Yoongi is my fiance. Jungkook laughed, wild and broken. No, no, you're joking. You promised me. I waited, Taeyang replied. I couldn't anymore. Then look me in the eyes and say it, Jungkook demanded. Come here. There was silence. Then Taeyang said, there's nothing left to discuss. I'm getting married soon. The call ended. Jungkook stared at his phone as if it might explain itself. Slowly, he lifted his head and looked at Yoongi. So, Jungkook said coldly, you're the one he replaced me with. Yoongi didn't respond. 2 years, Jungkook continued, voice shaking now. 2 years of promises, of waiting, and you just stepped into my place. That's not what happened, Yoongi said quietly. Oh, really? Jungkook snapped. Then what happened? He got tired of me being gone. Or was it easier to choose someone who never left? Yoongi stood abruptly. Don't talk about him like that. Jungkook scoffed. Why? Because he's yours now? The punch came out of nowhere. Yoongi didn't hit him hard, but it was enough to knock Jungkook back against the table, coffee spilling, chairs scraping loudly across the floor. Gasps echoed through the cafe. Say whatever you want about me, Yoongi said, voice low and dangerous. But don't insult him. Jungkook wiped blood from his lip, eyes blazing. Tell him this, he spat. Tell Kim Taehyung that he broke something he'll never fix. Yoongi looked at him for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away. That night, Jungkook stood alone on the bridge overlooking the river. The same river where he had promised to return. The same river where Taehyung had promised to wait. Something inside him hardened slowly, painfully. Love didn't disappear. It froze. And Jungkook swore to himself that night that he would never let anyone see how deeply he had been wounded again. Not even Taehyung. 5 years passed. On paper, Jungkook's life looked impressive. He returned abroad again, not to escape, he told himself, but to move forward. He earned degrees people congratulated him for, landed positions others envied, lived in apartments with glass walls and city views that glittered at night like proof of success. He smiled in photographs. He shook hands confidently. He became someone people admired. But warmth never followed him. Jungkook learned how to function without feeling. Mornings began early, nights ended late. His days were filled with meetings, deadlines, responsibilities stacked neatly one after another, anything to avoid silence. Silence was dangerous. Silence reminded him of cherry blossoms and promises and a voice that once said, I'll be waiting. He stopped calling places home. They were just places he slept. People tried to get close. Colleagues invited him out for drinks, laughed too easily at his jokes, looked at him the way Taehyung used to soft, hopeful, open. Jungkook pulled away every time. I'm not interested, he said, politely but firmly. Eventually, they stopped asking. Love felt like a language he no longer spoke. Sometimes, at night, memories crept in uninvited. Taehyung laughing, with his head thrown back. Taehyung humming while cooking. Taehyung's hands warm, expressive, always reaching. And then, I'm engaged. There's nothing left to discuss. Jungkook would sit up in bed, chest tight, jaw clenched, forcing the thoughts away. He told himself Taehyung had chosen this. He told himself he'd been foolish to believe in waiting. He told himself anger was easier than grief. Some nights he almost believed it. Back home, Taehyung's name slowly faded from conversations. Friends stopped mentioning him around Jungkook, as if his name was something fragile that might shatter if spoken too loudly. Jungkook never asked about him. He didn't want updates. He didn't want closure. He wanted distance. But distance never erased love, it only buried it deeper. 5 years later, Jungkook returned again. This time, not for ambition. For his father, illness had a way of pulling people back to places they thought they'd outgrown. Jungkook stayed longer than planned, moving through familiar streets with unfamiliar detachment. Everything looked smaller. The cafe by the river was gone, replaced by a modern building with cold glass walls. Jungkook didn't stop to look. He told himself it didn't matter. He told himself a lot of things. The mall was crowded that afternoon. Jungkook walked aimlessly, phone pressed to his ear as he discussed something work related, barely paying attention to where he was going. Until he saw him. The world didn't stop this time. It lurched. The man stood near a bookstore entrance, dressed simply, hair a little longer than Jungkook remembered. He was thinner, paler. Taehyung.